Hi, I'm Morgan Pehme, Editor-in-Chief of City and State, and I'm on location on 76th Street on the Upper West Side with the new Executive Director of the New York City Board of Elections, Michael Ryan. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So, how is your first primary day, your first election day going?
It's hectic, but it's about what I expected. I was a former commissioner of the Board of Elections, so this is not a process that is completely foreign to me. I actually know it pretty well, and so it's going about as I expected.
And we've heard some news reports today about problems in voting. I mean, is there an irregular number of problems, or is it pretty par for the course?
I think it's par for the course. We're getting some spot calls about issues, and as we've gotten them, we've resolved them as best we can and as quickly as we can.
What have been predominantly the problems today?
Well, one problem that we had here in Manhattan on the east side was polling machines not being delivered to the poll site. That is an absolutely unacceptable problem. It was fortunately remedied by 7:35, but it did cost an hour and a half at the front end of the day. That's not a problem that we seek to happen again if there is a runoff, or certainly not in the general.
Earlier today, we were at the headquarters of the voter hotline that Nightberg and Common Cause New York are running, and it seemed like there was about half their complaints involved the lever voting machines and misfunctions with them. I mean, was it a mistake to go back to the mechanical voting machines?
It was absolutely necessary. From a computer programming perspective, it was a physical impossibility to reprogram all of the machines necessary in that tight time frame. Keep in mind that before the change in legislation, it was a 2-week turnaround between the primary and the potential runoff, not counting any potential court challenges. They extended it to 3 weeks, but even with the 3 weeks, given the complexity of the ballot, the inability to predict who's going to be in a runoff, there was no way we could have used the electronic voting machines for this election cycle.
Have you already taken away some lessons that you'll be able to apply in the case of a runoff?
Absolutely. We learn all the time, but we do a post-election analysis after every election. So we will take what we've learned, we'll dissect the calls that we've received, we'll look at where they came in, where the problems were, and we will seek, as we always do, to improve the next time and do the runoff even better. If there is a runoff, keep in mind that the candidates may get 40% and there might not be a runoff. So we're talking as if the runoff is a fait accompli, but it's not quite there yet and the voters haven't spoken. So I would encourage every voter to get out there and vote before 9 o'clock tonight.
Is there any one borough that you've seen have a preponderance of problems, or has it been pretty evenly distributed?
Well, I think when you look at the volume boroughs, particularly Brooklyn and Manhattan, by the sheer concentration of the number of voters that they have, certainly the number of problems will be higher. Whether or not per capita they're higher problems will be part of our post-election analysis.
The New York City Board of Elections has gotten beat up by the press a lot in recent years for their performance in some of the elections. I mean, what is it that you intend to do differently as the new executive director?
Well, certainly I think having an executive director is a big step forward. The place didn't have an executive director for almost 3 years. So the fact that we have somebody in charge, somebody that's willing to take responsibility, for whatever mistakes are made and be willing to correct them, is a big step in the right direction. And on top of that, modernization. I did make a joke the other day. I said, when are Fred and Wilma coming over for Bronto Burgers? Because some of the stuff seems to be a bit antiquated, and we need to move forward from a technology perspective, not only where it touches the voters, but in the back office as well, so that a lot of the paper that we've accumulated over the years can be dissipated, and that should drive our operating costs down.
We talked about how it was a technological impossibility to use the voter scan ballots in this election. But I mean, we spent $90 million on putting that process in place. I mean, should we ask for our money back? Did we make an error in the way that the electronic voting was put into place?
Well, I think the premise of the question is slightly off focus from this perspective. We didn't spend this money. The United States Congress spent this money. They imposed this electronic voting system on the entire country. New York was among the last, if not the last, jurisdiction to implement the electronic voting machines, and we're doing the best we can. Keep in mind, New York is a complicated state. It's a large state, and there were certain statutory amendments that needed to be made in order to fully accommodate the implementation of the electronic voting machines, not the least of which is an expansion of the time between a primary and a potential runoff. That 2 weeks just doesn't work. It won't work for this year, and if it's not fixed, it won't work in the out years either. That's why we have a commitment from the New York State Senate and the New York State Assembly to work diligently with us, with the State Board of Elections, to come up with a system and a scheme that works for everyone, meets the needs of the voters, meets the needs of the elected officials that may be running, meets the needs of the people who are running in the primary, as well as the Board of Elections.
Do you have a sense of what voter turnout will be today?
I'm hearing it's moderate. What precisely that means, I'm not sure. We had almost 800,000 people vote in 2001 in the primary, the last time we had one like this, where everybody, to coin the old Harrow's commercial, everybody's in the pool, right? And in 2009, we had in the 300 to 350,000 range. I'm suspecting that it's going to be somewhere in the middle, between 500 and 700,000. But again, my job is to encourage the people to come out to vote. I want as many people to vote so that we're confident as a city moving forward that the person that's ultimately chose to lead us, as well as the offices that are further down on the ballot, is the person that the people really want to be the one.
I mean, we've heard kind of 800,000 as being a watermark of what would be kind of moderate turnout. I mean, it seems like you're predicting lower than that.
I would think it's going to be lower than 800,000, but again, I'm, to coin an old Johnny Carson, I'm not Karnak. I don't have an ability to see into the future. We can only go by based on what's before us, and I'm making my best guess. We'll see. If my prognostication turns out not to be on the mark, don't ask me to pick your football teams for you.
And lastly, you said that you'd like the New York City Board of Elections to be in consideration for our city and states winners of the week. What do you think would be would merit that? What do you need to accomplish in order to demonstrate that you are indeed a winner of the week?
Well, although a lot of people want to tell me how to do my job and what I need to do to make the Board of Elections better, I leave that to your good editorial sense.
Michael Ryan, thank you. Best of luck to you today, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.